Bel was an ugly, lonely, and weak F-rank adventurer that everyone bullied and no one wanted. But upon finding his own goddess, he was able to awaken his strongest SS-rank skill. Bel working as a weak and lonely adventurer attempting to make money by slaying monsters in the underground dungeon. We meet Bel as he is being chased by a minotaur, but when he got to a dead end, he was about to be destroyed like a tiny weakling. He was suddenly saved by a scantily clad and beautiful girl who slices the minotaur into two, giving him a taste of its blood. The lady, who happens to be Ais, the sword princess, asks Bel if he is alright, but he is unable to answer her because he is struck by her beauty.
Oh my god! Wow!
While covered in blood, Bel runs to the Adventurers Guild, and as everyone wonders what is wrong with him, he immediately calls out on Ina, who is an attendant in the guild, to tell him about Ais. There, he explains to Ina about his encounter on the 5th floor of the dungeon, which makes her begin to scold him as she tells him how dangerous the dungeon itself is. After listening to Ina, Bel asks her to tell him about Ais. Looking at him, Ina asks if he has developed some feelings towards Ais, and Bel accepts that he has a strong feeling towards Ais.
Wait a minute!
Realizing this, Ina explains to Bel that Ais belongs to the Loki Familia, who is also in level 5, and she was named the Sword Mistress by the gods. Still curious about Ais, Bella asks Ina if Ais has any male partner, but she tells him she is not sure. Also because he belongs to the Hestia Familia and got his blessings from the goddess Hestia. It would not be easy for him to look into Ais, or at least be her partner.
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
Bel becomes disappointed and goes to submit his gems to get money. But before he leaves, Ina advises him that ladies like Ais can only get attracted to stronger men, and if he works hard, he might gain her favor someday. Because of this, Bel becomes motivated and excited, which makes him tell Ina he loves her, shocking her as she immediately wonders why she spoils him so much. On his way home, Bel remembers what his grandfather had told him about getting girls in the dungeon as an adventurer. At this moment, Bel decides that he would make sure he works hard enough to be able to get the girl of his dreams. On getting home, Bel tells his goddess, Hestia, how he almost died in the dungeon. Hearing this, Hestia gets scared, as she starts to check his body to see if he is hurt. Seeing how much she cares, Bel assures her that he would not abandon her, because he is the only member of her familia. Then he notices that she has made dinner and proceeds to ask her how she got food. Hestia tells him she got the food from the booth where she works part-time. Then she also suggests that they have a party while eating dinner. As they both eat, Hestia tells Bel how she is not able to find anyone to join her familia and begins to feel bad. Seeing her sad, Bel assures her they would be okay since she is trying her best to fend for them.
Did you pray today?
Also, Hestia feels bad because she is unable to use her divine powers, but Bel assures her they would be fine, which makes Hestia excited as she tells him how happy she is to meet him. Later that night, Hestia checks Bel's stats, telling him how she feels about Ais, and when she begins to sound angry, Bel asks why she is getting worked up, but she denies it.
Yep.
However, while checking Bel's stats, Hestia notices something, and when she shows Bel his stats, he becomes disappointed after realizing he has no skills and he is unable to use magic yet. Disappointed, Bel leaves the room, and Hestia begins to wonder how children in the lesser sphere change easily. Then Hestia reveals what she had scraped off in a paper, and tells herself that Bel possesses the realist phrase skill where he would be able to grow and mature easily. She also adds that he is able to unlock the skill because of Ais, and that alone is getting her angry. The following morning, Bel wakes up and sees Hestia sleeping on his chest, which makes him become scared as he immediately hurries out. On his way to the dungeon, Bel meets a beautiful girl who gives him a gem, telling him that he had dropped it. Confused, Bel collects the gem and the girl asks if he is going to the dungeon that early, but before he could reply to her, his stomach begins to make some angry noises. Seeing this, the girl immediately gives him a box of food containing her breakfast, but Bel tries to refuse it. Then she shows him the restaurant where she works and tells him he could also eat there when they open. The girl tells him to promise her he would stop by to eat in their restaurant that evening in exchange for the food she gave him. Bel agrees and makes his way to the dungeon, where he begins to lament how he would keep up with Ais so as to be worthy to have her. Suddenly, he sees monsters coming his way and decides to kill them all for Ais' sake. Later that night, Hestia shows Bel his results, which makes him so excited to see how much he has grown. But Hestia seems angry as she hisses at him, telling him to go have dinner alone while she goes to a party at her part-time job. Seeing her act this way, Belle becomes confused, but unknown to him, Hestia goes to a path to sit by herself, as she wonders how much Belle likes Ace for him to grow that much of his skill. Also, she laments on why he would feel like that towards Ace when he has her.
Wait a minute!
Meanwhile, Belle goes to the restaurant where the girl he met earlier that day works, and upon seeing him, the girl becomes excited, and then introduces herself as Sir Flover. There Belle sits, and he is given different type of foods to eat. At that moment, the owner of the restaurant named Mamma Mia meets him and tells him how cute he is for an adventurer. Surprised, Belle begins to calculate the amount of food given to him and realizes how much he would spend without asking for the food he is given. However, another attendant announces the arrival of their guests who made a reservation. But when the guests enter the restaurant, Belle immediately recognizes them as the members of the Loki Familia, but gets astounded when he sees Az. There, Sire tells him that the Loki Familia are the regular customers, which makes Belle decide to keep coming to the restaurant as a way to always see Az.
Oh my god! Wow!
After a while, one of the members of the Loki Familia named Beat tells Az to tell the story of how she saved a boy who was so scared of a minotaur. At this point, Belle knew he was the one they were talking about. Then he became angry and pained that Az had told the rest of her familia about how scared he was. However, Az decides to keep mute, but Beat continues to tell the story while the listeners laugh, until another member of the familia cautions him and tells him to stop. Beat ignores her and turns to Az to ask her who she would pick between himself and the boy she met in the dungeon, since the boy cannot stand next to her because he is a loser. Hearing this, Belle gets angry and immediately runs out of the restaurant, while the people there think he ran because he does not have any money to pay. But Az also runs outside at that moment, as she begins to wonder if Belle is the same boy she met in the dungeon. Meanwhile, Belle goes to the dungeon to kill more monsters, telling himself he would do what he must to get stronger. The following morning, Hestia begins to get worried as she did not see Belle, until suddenly she sees him coming towards her, and when he gets to where she is, he breaks down in tears, telling her of his desire to get stronger. To start with, Hestia checks Belle's stats and tells him how much he has grown from the last time she checked it, which makes him become very excited as he knows he is getting strong.
Oh my god! Wow!
Then they both assure themselves that they would help each other grow. After their discussion, Hestia informs Belle that she would not be able to come home for 2 to 3 days because she wants to attend a party meant for gods and goddesses, which he agrees to. Later, Belle goes to the restaurant where Sir works and apologizes to Mamma Mia for not paying up the previous day. After apologizing, Sir asks him if he is going to the dungeon, which he tells her he is. Then she offers him another box of food for his trip to the dungeon, and he thanks her for her kindness. But before he leaves, Mamma Mia advises him to be careful in the dungeon because his life and safety is supposed to be his top priority. Hearing this, Belle thanks her for the advice and he leaves. Meanwhile, at the gods' party, Hestia is caught by the goddess of beauty, Freya, while stuffing her face with food, but while they exchange pleasantries, they get interrupted by Loki. Because of this, Hestia gets angry and asks Loki what she is looking for in the party, which makes Loki tell her she does not need any permission to attend the party. Also, Hestia asks Loki about Az, so as to know if she has any man she is seeing, but Loki immediately tells her not to ask her about Az, because she is her own favorite, and she would kill anyone who tries to trouble her. During this conversation, Freya integrates as she asks Loki why she has worn a lovely dress. Then, Loki tells her she dresses nice because she does not want to be seen as a poor god. Belle, on the other hand, tries to follow the other adventurers to the dungeon, but on their way, he admires the different weapons some of the adventurers possess, but gets distracted when he hears an adventurer talking about a tournament called the Monster Filia. Meanwhile, at the party, Hestia and Loki begin a brawl, as Loki pinches Hestia's cheeks. But in the end, Loki goes home crying after being insulted by Hestia. There, Hestia hears another god's voice, and immediately recognizes the person as Hephaestus. Then she suddenly begins to jump for joy as she tells Freya and Hephaestus that she came to the party to see Hephaestus. Hearing this, Hephaestus immediately tells her that she would not lend her more money, but Hestia pleads that she has changed, as she is only looking for how she would help her familia. At that moment, Freya tells Hephaestus and Hestia that she wants to go and sort something since she only came to the party to confirm something.
Wait a minute!
Then she also adds that she is tired of tasting all the men in the party and wants to try out new stuffs, then she leaves. There, Hephaestus asks Hestia what she wants from her, and Hestia tells her she wants her to forge a weapon for Bel, which, unknown to her, Bel is already checking out some weapons. And at that moment, Bel meets another god named Maich. There, Bel asks Maich why he did not attend the party of the gods, and he replies that he is busy preparing some things for his own familia. However, Maich gives Bel some magic potions, which he refuses at first but later accepts and thanks Maich for his kindness. Meanwhile, at the party, Hestia bows down to Hephaestus that he should help her to forge the weapon for Bel, because she wants to help Bel as he is trying to be better. After much persuasion, Hephaestus agrees to make the weapon, and tells Hestia that she would be her personal assistant. She as well adds that they have both agreed that Hestia would pay her for the weapon later. Hearing this, Hestia becomes happy, but she gets more excited when Hephaestus tells her she would forge the weapon herself, which makes Hestia begin to hail her as the god of smith. The following day, Bel begins to wonder if Hestia would return that day until he suddenly hears someone calling out to him. And when he looks back, he sees an attendant of the restaurant he met Sir. There, the attendant named Anya tells him that she wants him to help them give a purse to Sar, who skipped her work to go to the monster Filia. Bel agrees to take the purse to her, but asks Anya what the monster Filia event is all about. Anya explains that the event is a huge yearly event, held by the Genosha Familia, where a lot of adventurers show off their powers by defeating some monsters they captured from the dungeon in a huge arena filled with spectators. However, Hephaestus eventually finished forging a knife for Bel, which makes Hestia become excited and asks Hephaestus if she can take it to Bel immediately. But Hephaestus tells her not to forget the money she owes her. In Loki's house, she is visited by a god, whom she asks what she has come to do at her place. Then the god tells Loki of how she is interested in Bel and how beautiful and attractive he is.
Oh my god! Wow!
Hearing this, Loki begins to insult the god for eyeing young men to fulfill her desires. On getting to the tournament, Bel sees how crowded the place is and tries to go and find Sar. All of a sudden, he hears his name and becomes shocked, only for him to see Hestia there. He asks her how she came back suddenly, and she tells him how she wants them to go on a date for them to spend time together.
Wait a minute!
Hestia drags Bel as they go to get some street food and feed each other while sitting under a tree. But unknown to them, the god that is after Bel goes to where the monsters are kept and teases them, while telling herself that she wants him to grow stronger. While on their date, Bel and Hestia suddenly hear a loud noise as everyone is running for their lives. Seeing the huge monster running, Bel and Hestia realize that the monster is after them, and they both begin to also run for their lives. Suddenly, Bel sees that the monster is about to attack Hestia and tries to attack it, but his sword breaks into pieces in the process.
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
Then, he decides to hide Hestia, telling her he would distract the monster for her to escape, because he does not want to lose any of his family again. Bel tells Hestia this because he remembers how he lost his grandfather and has decided not to lose Hestia, as well since she is his only family. At the arena, Venetia is told that some monsters have escaped, but when he asks about the guards that are kept there, he is informed that the guards have been charmed. Then he instructs his men to seek help from other gods and familias, so as to recover the missing monsters and also find whoever was behind it. While Bel continues to fight the huge monster, Hestia is able to escape but falls down while holding the knife she wanted to present to Bel, and at that moment she remembers what Hephaestus had told her about it. Meanwhile, Ina gets the information about the missing monsters and immediately tells the girl who told her about the news not to make noise about it so as to prevent the people present from panicking. But suddenly, Egg sees the two girls talking and asks what they are talking about, which makes them end up telling her the news. On the other hand, Bel decides to fight with the monster so that he create time for Hestia to run so far. And while almost being killed by the monster, Bel wonders if he could see Ise's face again, but he immediately tells himself that he would not want her to see him in such a state. Meanwhile, Ace has also begun to hunt and kill the monsters that escaped, and after defeating them one after the other, she asks Ina, who wonders if Bel is also safe about how many monsters are left. While fighting, Bel suddenly hears Hestia's voice and becomes shocked as he had told her to escape. Unfortunately, at that moment, the monster shifts its gaze from Bel to Hestia, which makes Bel's immediately run to carry Hestia away, as the monster tries to attack them. While they hide, Bel tells Hestia that they are both going to die. But as Hestia tries to give him the knife, Belle immediately carries her again on seeing that the monster is after them. Finally, they get to an enclosed place and Hestia gifts Belle the knife and calls it the Hestia knife. Seeing this, Belle begins to cry and Hestia assures him that he can beat the monster as she would be by his side. Then, while Hestia tries to connect the knife to Belle and activates the power of the knife, she becomes shocked at how powerful the knife is. Suddenly, the monster perceives them and sees where they are hiding, which makes Hestia tell Belle that he should go and defeat the monster because she believes in him. Belle goes ahead and immediately begins to fight with the monster as he remembers how Hestia has been supporting him, being the only family he has. After a while, Belle defeats the monster and Hestia becomes very excited, while Ayaz watches from a corner and sees the way Hestia is hugging Belle, who is very excited to defeat such a huge monster.
Yep.
All of a sudden, Hestia falls unconscious and Belle becomes scared, but the goddess who is after Belle watches from afar, and it turns out to be the goddess of beauty, Filia, who tells herself that she would see and play with Belle again. Worriedly, Belle takes Hestia to Mamma Mia's restaurant, and with Sir's help, they are able to get a bed as well. While Hestia sleeps, Belle thanks Sir for the help, while she tells him how she is attracted to him then leaves. Later, when Hestia wakes up, Belle asks Sir where she got the knife from as he can see an inscription of Hephaestus' name. Then Hestia confirms that she got it from Hephaestus, the god of smiths. Hestia adds that she knows he has been window shopping for the knife at Angelus' weapon shop and wants to help him. On hearing this, Belle bursts into tears and hugs Hestia. Belle goes to the guild to tell Ina that he explored the 7th floor of the dungeon. As his dungeon advisor, she becomes angry and begins to scold him, asking him why he had gone to the 7th floor because of how dangerous it is for him. At that moment, Belle tells her that he has grown since the last time he went to the dungeon, but she does not believe him, as he also adds that some of his stats are rank E to be sure. Ina takes Belle to a place in the guild and inspects his back to check his stats, only to find out he is not lying to her. Seeing this, she becomes happy for him and asks if he would be free the following day, which he tells her he would, and she tells him they should meet at a spot in town. The following day, Belle waits for Ina at the spot she had told him, and when arrives, she apologizes for coming late and asks Belle what he thinks about her dressing. At first, he is confused and immediately tells her that she is looking youthful, but suddenly, Ina grabs his head to tell her that she is young, as she tells him to apologize for calling her old. After, Belle asks Ina where they are going, and she tells him they are going to the Hephaestus shop in the Babel Tower. Then, Belle immediately becomes shocked as he tells her that he does not have enough money to buy something at the Hephaestus shop. Hearing this, Ina laughs at Belle and tells him to stop acting like a kid so that they can go. Getting to a floor of the tower, Belle sees that it is the Hephaestus shop, and he becomes shocked at the prices of the weapons there. But Ina tells him that their destination is the floor above them. As Belle continues to admire the weapons, Hestia comes out to welcome them, thinking they were other customers.
Oh my god! Wow!
Belle sees Hestia and asks her what she is doing in the store, but she ignores his question and asks Ina who she is. Ina introduces herself to Hestia and tells her how pleased she is. Also, Hestia ignores Ina's greetings and whispers to her that she must not abuse Belle's as his advisor, but Ina tells her that she keeps her personal life away from her business life. Then Hestia continues to glare at Ina till they both leave the shop. Soon, they get to their destination and Ina tells Belle that the floor is another extension of the Hephaestus brand, because the weapons made on the floor were made by beginners in the Familia, and they all sell their weapons cheap so as to put their own name outside as well. Belle goes to a part of the store and sees an armor that he likes, but when he checks the amount, he realizes that the amount of the amorg is basically all of the money he has left. Eventually, Belle buys the armor. Then Ina tells him to try to join a party or hire a supporter, and Belle tells her he would think about her suggestion. After leaving the shop, Ina gives Belle a protector and tells him to be careful anytime he goes to the dungeon, as adventurers tend to die quickly. She also adds that he should not die on her.
Wait a minute!
Belle accepts the gift and thanks her as he makes his way back home. On his way home, Belle gets hit by a little girl who is running away from an adventurer, and as the adventurer tries to hurt the girl, Belle immediately uses his knife to stop him. Suddenly, the adventurer tries to attack Belle, but he is stopped by an attendant from Mamma Mia's restaurant named Ryu, and the adventurer runs away. Grateful, Belle thanks Ryu for her help, but as she leaves, she tells him to be careful as Sire would not be happy if anything happens to him. Then Belle begins to look for the little girl he saved, but the girl seems to have gotten away. The following day, Belle goes to the dungeon, but he suddenly sees the little girl he had saved the previous day, who asks him if he needs a supporter and then introduces herself as Lilaruka. She urges Belle to hire her because of the way he touched her ears, which is her precious spot. Eventually, Belle hires Lili, and they both go into the dungeon where Belle fights a lot of creatures. And when he finishes, he tells Lili he is only able to focus because of her. There, Lili sees Belle's knife and asks him where he got it from. Just then, Belle reveals to her that he got it from his goddess, and proceeds to ask her of her familia, to which she replies that she belongs to the Soma Familia. Then, Lili begins to pick the gems from the creatures, and offers Belle another knife to cut the last creature while she stares at his knife. However, Belle goes to the guild, where he tells Ina about his new supporter from the Soma Familia, which makes her become uneasy as she tells him that the people from the Soma Familia are always desperate, as if they are scared for their lives. But then, when she asks Belle about his impression of Lili, he tells her that Lili is nice, and he was able to make more money because of her help. Later, Belle bids Ina goodbye, but as he is about to leave, Ina asks him where his knife is, and when he checks, he realizes that his knife is gone, and it was at this moment he realizes that he f***ed up. Meanwhile, Lili takes Belle's knife to a gnome who prices it at the rate of 30 Valius, but Lili tells him that she cannot sell it at that rate, and leaves the shop as she begins to think of how the gnome wanted to dupe her. On her way, Lili meets Ryu and Sutter and immediately hides the knife, but Ryu sees her and immediately asks her to show her the knife she is hiding because it looks like the knife one of her friends has. Lili tells Ryu that the knife is for her, but instead, Ryu uses a coin to hit the knife off Lili's hand and yells that she only knows of one knife with hieroglyphs. On seeing this, Lili immediately runs away, leaving the knife behind, but suddenly jumps into Belle, who tells her that he has misplaced his knife. Just then, he sees Ryu and Sutter, who hands him his knife, and tells him that they saw it with a peril. Excited, Belle suddenly holds Ryu's hands to thank her, but she tells him not to act like that to her but to Sire.
Wait a minute!
Before Ryu and Sire leave, Ryu whispers to Lili's ears never to try any trick on Belle again. But as the ladies leave, Belle asks Lili if she would like to follow him to the dungeon the next day.
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
The following day, Lili follows Belle into the dungeon and asks for his knife, and he tells her that he has kept it with his dungeon advisor, Ina, so that he would not lose it again. After defeating more creatures in the dungeon, Belle hires Lili formally, and when they count their profit for the day, they realize that they made up to 26,000 Valius.
Oh my god! Wow!
Belle splits the reward into 2 equal parts and gives Lili a part while he takes the other. Then he asks if she would like to get something to eat with him. Seeing this, she becomes shocked because he does not try to take all of the profits alone. And when she asks him why, he tells her that he would not have made such profit alone. While showing off his bet's charm, Belle stretches his hand to Lili as he tells her that they have to keep it up. At the guild, Ina sees one of the Soma Familia nagging and complaining about how little his money is, which makes her begin to wonder if Belle would be alright with his new supporter. Meanwhile, Filia, the goddess of beauty, who is after Belle, tells herself that she only wanted to look at him from afar, but now she is ready to go after him. At home, Hestia drinks some grape juice with Maich, the goddess Belle met earlier, and begins to tell him how Ina wants to take Belle away from her. However, Maich tells her that Belle is not her property, but she refuses, saying that Belle is cheating on her.
Wait a minute!
Since he met his dungeon advisor. Suddenly, Hestia hits her huge cannons on the table while crying, and at the same time shining to confess how much she loves Belle. The following morning, Hestia begins to cry, making Belle wonder what is wrong with her as he gives her medicine to take. Then he asks her if she would be free the following day so as to treat her to a nice meal. On hearing this, Hestia jumps up and tells him that she is free at the moment so they could go on a date. She also goes to her wardrobe to get clothes, but changes her mind all of a sudden and tells Belle they should meet at Amour Square in the evening by 6. Later that evening, Belle waits for Hestia at the Amour Square, but begins to get uncomfortable as he sees different couples doing different things. Soon, Hestia arrives and asks Belle if she did not keep him waiting, but he tells her that he just arrived. Then, as Hestia tries to grab Belle's hand for them to go, some ladies suddenly shows up as they all gather around Belle to see the handsome demigod who captivated Hestia, which makes Hestia very angry as she grabs Belle, and they both begin to run away from the goddesses. After trying to escape all day, Belle and Hestia hide in a place where they both sit because of how exhausted they have been. There, Belle consoles Hestia that he would still treat her to a nice meal, which makes her unhappy immediately she hears that. Meanwhile, Lili goes to pay some adventurers who maltreat her, but they kick her out, telling her to go bring more money if she wants to gain her freedom from them. Later, Belle goes with Lili to the dungeon, and as Belle fights with the creatures, Lili uses her magic blade to help Belle out. When done, Belle shares his lunch with Lili, while she tells him of her plans to take the day off the following day because of the assembly she has in her Familia, which he agrees with. The following morning, when Sir tries to give him his lunch as usual, he refuses it as he tells her that he is not going to the dungeon. Then, Belle sees a magic book in the restaurant and immediately borrows it from Sar, who tells him that a customer had forgotten it.
Wait a minute.
However, Belle takes the book in home and immediately begins to read about magic so as to awaken his own magical powers. Then suddenly, he sleeps off while he begins to dream of the kind of magic power he would like to possess. Moments later, Hestia gets home and wakes Belle up. Then, when they both check his stats, Hestia becomes shocked to see that Belle has gotten a magical power called Firebolt.
Oh my god! Wow!
Realizing this, Belle becomes excited as Hestia explains how he would be able to use his powers, and also tells him to try it in the dungeon the following day. Later that night, Belle leaves the house and goes into the dungeon so as to use his magical powers. On getting there, Belle gets excited and immediately uses his powers to kill the creatures he finds. Getting to a place in the dungeon, Belle becomes tired and suddenly passes out.
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
Meanwhile, Ace and another member of the Loki Familia named Riveria, who were exploring the dungeon to defeat the floor boss, suddenly sees Belle, who is unconscious. Ace recognizes him and tells Riveria that he is the boy she had saved the previous day. Seeing this, Riveria asks if she wants to help him again, which she replies to that she has not been able to speak with Belle to apologize for what Bet said about him in the restaurant. However, Riveria leaves while Ace watches over Belle. But the moment Belle regains his consciousness and sees Ace, he immediately runs away while rolling like a huge boulder. On getting home, Belle begins to cry as he remembers what he had done. He realizes that he had f***ed up by running away on seeing Ace. At that moment, Hestia wakes up and sees Belle crying. She asks if he had a nightmare because of the magic book he read the previous night. To verify, she picks up the book and suddenly realizes that it is not an ordinary book but a grimoire, a book that lets one use magic. Realizing this, Hestia tells Belle that the book would lose its effect once someone reads it, which makes Belle become scared as he thinks he has read what he is not supposed to. Immediately, Belle returns the book to the restaurant and apologizes for reading its content, and when he is told he should not pay for it, he tells them that he has to leave for the dungeon. Meanwhile, Aina meets Riveria and Loki in a place where they want to purchase some items. Then she immediately approaches Riveria to ask if she can ask Loki what she knows about the Soma Familia. Riveria agrees to help her by asking Loki, who tells Aina that the people of the Soma Familia do not worship a god but worship their booze. On the other hand, Belle goes to the entrance of the dungeon, and when he looks for Lili, he realizes that some adventurers are trying to bully her and tries to stop them. But one of them goes to meet him to join them, so as to rob Lili of her money and equipments as adventurers.
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
Knowing this isn't right, Belle disagrees and chases the adventurers away. Getting to Lili, she asks him what he was discussing with the adventurer, but he tells her it is nothing and asks her what the adventurers want from her. She decides not to answer him by ignoring his question and leaves for the dungeon. On their way, Lili remembers what happened to her parents and how she has been fending for herself. She also remembers how other adventurers had stolen from her, but she has decided to gain her freedom from them by paying the people she owes and reminds herself how much she hates adventurers. Meanwhile, Aina gets invited to Loki's house, where Loki tells her all she knows about how the mean bees of the Soma Familia would do anything to get money in order to buy their original grape juice instead of the fake they sell. Then, Loki leaves with Ace and Aina begins to wonder how she would talk to Hestia and Belle about Lilikira, her supporter. However, Belle talks to Hestia about Lili and explains that he notices that some adventurers are after her. He begs Hestia to let Lili live with them, for her to be safe from the adventurers that are trying to steal from her. But Hestia asks him if he is supposed to trust her with all that she has heard from him. The following day, Lili suggests to Belle that they explore the 10th floor, but he tells her he has heard about huge monsters being on the 10th floor. Yet Lili persuades him that he has the ability to defeat the monsters, which makes Belle agree and they go to the 10th floor. But on the other hand, Ina becomes worried about Belle, but also consoles herself as she is named the inspector of the Babel Tower.